All right, welcome back. Let's say that we want to display the name of the person, like hello John or something, in our display name component. So how can we achieve that? I can always go to the display name component and I can edit this and I can simply say hi John. And now it reflects hi John. Great. But what if I want to say hi Mary or hi Alex or hi Steve? Should I create display name component for every single name in the world? Well, that's going to take forever. So one of the features that you can use in React, which is very common, is the idea of properties. This means that whenever you are calling the display name component, you can additionally pass in properties that can have a value, and those values can be taken or accessed inside the components also. So right over here in the display name component, let's say that I want to pass a property or the name of the person. So maybe I will go ahead and create a property called name. Now keep in mind that this name property, it's not something that React provides. This is something that I have just created on the fly. I mean, it doesn't have to be name. You can call this foo. You can call this my name. You can call this your name. So there is no name property per se in the React framework. We are just creating these properties on the fly, and you can name them anything you want. Over here, I can provide some sort of a name that I want to pass in. So I'm just going to say Mary Doe. So now I'm going to pass Mary Doe to the display name component. Let's go ahead and go to the display name component and see that how we can extract the value, how we can access this Mary Doe name. So I'll go to display name, and instead of John, I'm going to say this dot props dot name inside the curly brackets. The curly brackets is a React syntax. This means that inside whatever we have, the curly brackets, whatever the code is, this will be executed. This is a dynamic code. So what are we trying to do over here? So let's start with this keyword. Well, we're using this because we are inside a class. So that's where the this keyword comes in. This refers to the instance of that particular class. So if I have to call a certain function or refer to a certain property of the class, we always say this dot something, okay? The next step is, what about this props property? What is that and where is that coming from? The props property is coming from the component itself. In other words, when you create your own component, which in this case is called display name, and you extend or inherit from a component, which is a React component right here, you get a lot of different things for free, like the render function, and you also get the state, which we'll cover it later, but you also get the props. So props is referring to the props property, which is already existing inside the component. Then finally, we have name. Where is that coming from? Well, that's the same exact name of the property that we used in our app.js, which is right over here, the name property. So if I would have called this name property full name, what do I have to call it over here? Dot full name instead of name, right? So this is a way for a component to pass values, pass data from a parent to the child. The parent component in this case is the app component, and it is passing some data to a child component using the properties. Now I can always go ahead and I can copy this component and I can change this name to John Doe. So now we have two components called display name, and both of them are, well, displaying different sets of information. One is displaying Mary Doe and the other one is displaying John Doe. So this is a very important concept in React, which is the concept of properties. And properties allow us to pass the data from a parent component, which in this case is app component, down to the display name component. And this is more of a flow of the React, the normal flow or the default flow. So if you look at React application, let's say that this one is your app component, the data usually or preferably flows downwards. So we can go ahead and pass some data to our display name component. I'm just going to type DN over here. And you can pass the data to some other component. So data should always be passing downwards to the child components. This doesn't mean that you cannot really pass the data up from a child to the parent. I mean, there might be some condition where you want to do that, but the normal flow and the recommended flow of the data is always from parent to child. And this is exactly what we're doing over here. We have some data called Mary Doe and John Doe, and we're just passing the data, even though it's hard-coded, to the display name component. All right? Now, we can obviously add more things to it. So I can say age, and I can pass in whatever. And I can also provide some age, and I can pass something over here also. How do we access this age inside the display name component? I mean, if you just have to guess, how do we access the age? How would you do it? This, because we're inside a class, .props, because we are trying to access properties, dot, what is the name of the property that we use? Age. And let's go ahead and save it. And now you can see that now we are passing age in both the different components. So this is the normal flow from parent to child. In the next lectures, we will be looking at state. Why do you need state? And how do you update state? And how can we build a counter application using state?